And action. Welcome, Pete, to the second episode here of the Action Movie Podcast here.
Thank you.
And so today we're going to be reviewing the new Top Gun Maverick film. We are going to be going over some of the latest news and trailers that are dropping. And we'll be reviewing a couple of other smaller films that came out that you may not have seen and are debating whether or not to go see it. So with that being said, let's get right into it. The latest news. And unfortunately, we're going to start on a little bit of a downer, but he is an icon. And unfortunately, yesterday, Ray Liotta passed away. He's obviously a terrific actor. In his career, he broke out in the 1990 Martin Scorsese film, Goodfellas. And he did that after starring in Field of Dreams, which pretty much launched his career into a different stratosphere. He was 67, and apparently he had passed away in his sleep in the Dominican Republic while he was filming a new film called Dangerous Waters. And he was actually going through a little bit of a resurgence. He was shooting several other films, and, you know, obviously we've lost a lot of good people this year in the industry. And, you know, he's just unfortunately another person that is left us too soon. And so, yeah. And so, but in honor of him, Pete, our first list today is going to be our top 5 favorite Ray Liotta films. So I'll start with you.
I start. Yeah. No, I didn't even know that he was sick. I'm not even sure if they announced what it was that he had passed away from.
He died in his sleep. So, I mean, it just obviously happened yesterday. So there's no details on it, but there was no, obviously it was shocking. I mean, he was he was shooting a film. So
Certainly never like to hear that kind of stuff. But so my list, my top 5 Ray Liotta films, and I don't mean this disparagingly, but, you know, his top films on my list are so iconic that it almost makes the rest of the list feel like they're not even really good movies, even though I think that they're great movies and I think the performances were just as great. They're just not as well known maybe as his iconic ones. Number 5 for me was Hannibal.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4 was Identity.
Yeah, I got that on my list. That's a good one.
Identity, I thought was
I really like that film. It's such a sneaky good film. It's just a good watch. And, you know, if you have not seen that film, John Cusack's also in it, who's also excellent in that film.
Very good.
Amanda Peet, I want to say, is in it. I forget who else is in it, but it's just a sneaky good film. Like, literally, I want to go watch that again today.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Very underrated. Number 3 is Blow. Him playing Johnny Depp's dad. You know, the best scene in that movie is when he's confronting Johnny Depp. He's about to go on the run from the law, and he's basically questioning his choices in life. And Johnny Depp, just in his cocky way for that character, is just like, but Dad, I'm really good at this.
I kind of remember that movie. I saw that movie probably way too young. I need to watch that again. But yeah, I do. I kind of remember that scene.
Pay attention to that scene, because after Johnny Depp delivers that line, then Ray Liotta just stares at him, and you can tell he's leaning in without moving, and he's like, you know what, Georgie, you could have been great at anything, you know. And the way that he delivers the line, it's like it's what you want every father to say to their kids. That line has always stuck with me. So number 3, Below. Number 2 is Field of Dreams, because Shoeless Joe Jackson is an iconic character, and he did such a great job, and he grew up with me, and his lines throughout that movie. Number 1, Goodfellas, of course. How can it not be?
Pete, I mean, we got to do it. What's your favorite Ray Liotta line from Field of Dreams?
You know, Ty Cobb wanted to play, but none of us can stand the son of a bitch when he's alive, so he told him to stick it.
Yeah, that was.
But I can't do his laughs, otherwise I would do it. Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. All right, yeah, that's a good list. I got a little bit of a weird list.
You always seem to have weird lists.
I do. Well, I'm also trying to get, I'm trying to have a little diversity in these lists because, part of the point of these lists is to show appreciation of people's works. And, if we all had the same list, that would obviously not be as exciting. So my number 5, and this is just because it was such a different role for him. And it's one of my favorite shows, but it's called The League, which is a show about fantasy football. And he just
you incorporated television work as well.
Just roll. It's top 5 Ray Liotta roles, so it could be TV and film. I didn't want to, TV and film are interchangeable when it comes to these things.
No, that's good.
But again, this was a cameo. This was a small role for him, but it was a comedic role for him. And I wish he did more comedy. I feel like he has a little bit of Alec Baldwin in him, where most of his career he's going to be known as a serious actor.
Yeah,
but he's got a real funny side to him, especially just his. Everybody's like, Ray Liotta always had a very dominating presence to him. He was never really a weak character. He's always like you trusted him, and he's the lead for a reason. And so I loved him in this film because he was just really kind of fun and quirky, and he was playing a boss, and
right.
Everybody was afraid of him. And again, just a small role, but I thought he crushed it. And just for me, it just gave me so many possibilities of where he could go. Number 4,
before you continue, if he would have gotten a role like Alec Baldwin did on a show like 30 Rock, I think that Ray Liotta would have killed it.
Oh, 100%.
He would have dominated that role.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know anything behind the scenes. We don't know, what his agent or him are talking about. But yeah, I think that was a big miss, unfortunately. It's one of the sucky parts of this is because I think he was about to go through, and his projects are showing it. He was about to go through, I think, another renaissance.
Yeah.
And, like some of these actors where it's like you graduate from leading man in your 40s or 30s and 40s to you're now in 60s, and like Sean Connery, Morgan Freeman, some of these guys that just crushed the senior citizens roles. And I think he could have been one of those guys. But my third one, and I'm not sure if you watched it yet, I need to finish it, but I started it and he was excellent in it. But it's Many Saints of Newark, which was the movie sequel to The Sopranos.
Yeah.
And he was Tony Soprano's father in the film, and obviously that's his wheelhouse, and he just crushes in it. And he was
that movie
by far the best part of that film.
Yeah, I watched the movie and he was really good in it, but and I didn't put that on my list only because I haven't finished the Sopranos series yet. So I wanted to finish the series, rewatch the movie again to really kind of understand exactly what that means, because there's a lot of information in that movie that I wasn't privy to. But yeah, I mean, the role was incredible. I mean, he did a great job.
Yeah. And then, 2 and 1 are exactly the same as yours. Field of Dreams and number 1, Goodfellas. I mean, Goodfellas. I'm obviously going to watch it again, and we'll probably actually watch that here on the podcast. But Goodfellas is, it changed the mafia genre. I mean, after Goodfellas, they started making a lot more mafia films. I mean, Godfather is the original, obviously, that started the genre. But I think Goodfellas took it, that made Martin Scorsese. And
well, Scorsese brought a directorial style to that film that nobody had ever really seen before. I mean, he broke so many classic rules in that film and made it work. I mean, it just worked. I mean, you never pause on somebody's face and keep talking or do anything like that. You never did
that.
And
comedy. It's obviously Goodfellas is funny. You're laughing. Like Joe Pesci obviously is so great in that film, but it made the mafia film like, The Godfather is obviously a very serious, dramatic film, and it's one of the greatest films of all time. But Goodfellas really humanized mafia people, and then added comedy to it. Like you're saying, it was just obviously that's why for a lot of people, Goodfellas is the greatest mafia film. So
yeah, I'll put a victory next to that one for me. I win that list.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, well, we don't really compete in this one, Pete. It's one of the guys.
Hey, but listen, I win. It's fine. Let's move on.
It's fine. I'll give you that one only because I didn't. Yeah, I think I'm gonna crush you in the other one. So, okay. So also that dropped this week, the new Disney Plus series Andor, which is a Lucasfilm. Andor was a character in Rogue One, which Rogue One is my favorite Star Wars film. Hot take. And that dropped a couple days ago now, and it's expected to release end of August. And I want to know, Pete, what are your thoughts on this new series, and are you looking forward to it?
I'm looking forward to it a lot. I loved Rogue One as well, but it's obviously not my favorite of all time Star Wars film. I think we've argued about that one previously, but the series format for Star Wars is difficult for me to watch. I'm so behind and trying to keep up with everything. It's very difficult, but I am excited to see it, and it's moved up to sort of the top of my list once it drops.
Yeah, I
need to see Boba Fett still, and I need to see Obi-Wan still. So I mean, that's how behind
Obi-Wan literally just came out today. So I mean, give yourself some credit today. Just literally came out today.
Like everybody else then.
Yeah. I loved Mandalorian. The Mandalorian to me showed what is capable of a series in a Star Wars universe.
Right.
And that was a smashing success. It did such a good job of telling a new story and then still kind of tying in slightly to the Skywalker saga. And right. And then the Book of Boba Fett did the same. I looked forward to it, and I enjoyed it. I didn't like it as much as The Mandalorian, but again, it's sometimes it's always hard to beat the first one. And with this one, it's such an interesting time that it takes place in the Star Wars universe, and I'm hoping it has that same feeling as Rogue One. And I sense that from the trailer, which is this time of uncertainty, a time where there is not a lot of hope, and a time where people really people become unhappy and need to dig down deep inside. And this is where you find heroes where you didn't expect. And I love those story principles, and I'm super looking forward to it because that I sense that Rogue One-ness, and again, just the unhappiness, that I love that setting, because the Empire is not a good person. They're trying to dominate, and I love the fight back against that.
And that's always been a wonderful tone with a lot of the Star Wars movies, even from the beginning, was that the hopelessness, despair, just gritty life, difficult life, and finding heroes out of nowhere, like from where you least expect it. I mean, that's been a huge theme for Star Wars movies, and this continues that tradition. I can't wait.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and then
very much like MCU. It's very much like MCU for me. It's like when something new is about to come out, whether it's Star Wars or MCU, you get excited because it's another thing that we can watch and enjoy, and I love it.
Yeah, I'm not caught up on the MCU stuff. I'm not as big of a fan of the series that I am with Star Wars. Star Wars to me has a better brand right now, but that's not saying that can ever change. Hopefully we don't get a saturation point with these series, but so far Star Wars has done a good job, so looking forward to that. Right. And then lastly on the news, new Mission Impossible trailer dropped, and this production has been just like Top Gun Maverick, it was delayed with the pandemic and all that stuff. And so the new trailer dropped, I believe it dropped during Top Gun Maverick. I believe that was the final trailer. And the film comes out July 14th. What are your initial thoughts on the last two films? Apparently,
they're doing the Harry Potter thing where they break up the last story into two films, which great, more money for everybody, except for me apparently. So, I'm excited about this. I love all the Mission Impossible movies. If for anything, just to follow those sort of stories that you can never really kind of predict. You don't know which way it's going. You don't know who's good, who's really bad. The action is incredible. The stunts are really incredible, especially when you know that Tom Cruise is doing those things himself, and it's like, why would you do that? Why would you hang from a plane as it's flying off?
I mean, and we'll obviously go over that within our Top Gun Maverick review, because I can't even say I'm like the largest Tom Cruise fan. Obviously he's had some personal things that didn't necessarily rub me the right way, but I've heard he has been difficult to work with. But I hear when it comes to these two franchises, the Top Gun and the Mission Impossible, I hear he's a different guy, and he really, really takes pride in making this really great for the audiences. He doesn't take shortcuts. Sure. And he demands excellence. And I don't want to get into my Top Gun review here, but this is what separates both of these two films, and why this isn't like why I like Mission Impossible more than like the Fast and the Furious, is because the Fast and the Furious is so reliant on like CGI, and it's just so like it's just not believable, versus like Mission Impossible. Yeah, I mean, obviously they'll use a little bit of CGI, but he's actually doing something in that that's crazy. And I'm looking. I actually like this 2 movie idea. I don't want to see a 4-hour Mission Impossible film, but
no way.
But I just trust the filmmakers that they're gonna make 2 good films versus one long one. And again, I think I don't want to sit through a 4-hour Mission Impossible film. I'm glad it's broken up. But I also know you can tell a great story within 4 hours, especially again with episodics, how great episodics have become in the last 10 years. I'm all in. So
before they come out, of course, I'm going to make sure to see them again, because I don't want to fall into the same trap that I did when we were watching the Marvel films, the Doctor Strange movie.
Yeah, you're missing.
I just want to be able to know everything. I want to know those little pieces that are going to kind of make this end story. But before we continue, I'm going to do a quick turn and burn here. There we go. Quick turn and burn. There we are. And then I'm back.
That was insane for our viewers.
Quite the naval aviator.
Yeah, you are. All right. Well, next we are going to the new film reviews. So obviously with streaming, there are films that come out on different platforms. And especially when you're coming to blockbuster season, there's smaller films that not everybody is going to see, and we want to help you out. Sure. And we're going to do the work for you, so that you don't necessarily have to see everything. So our first film that we're going to review is called The Outfit, and you can watch it now on Peacock if you have Peacock. But this is a new film. It's directed by Graham Moore. He did Imitation Game, which is a film I absolutely love, one of my favorite World War II era films. And I went in this film with no expectations, didn't really know much about it. I read, it's just about a tailor, blah, blah, blah. And, the star of the film, Mark Rylance, he's been excellent in most of his films that I've seen in BFG and Bridge of Spies, which is where he really kind of took another turn. Dylan O'Brien is in that. And I love Dylan O'Brien, American Assassin. Most people know him from, I think it's the Insurgent series or something. Right,
Insurgent films.
Yeah. And then Zoe Deutsch is in this as well. She's the daughter of Leah Thompson. And it's a 1950s era film that took place in Chicago. So it's a mafia related type of film. And what I loved about it the most too is it's one of those like short term films, meaning the film takes place in a single night or a single day. And those films I always find, because of time, typically it's just on a clock, so the pace is excellent. And yeah, this film,
and they draw you in because of that.
Oh yeah. And
the seat, you can't even move.
Again, I love the mafia aspect to it. I loved again the time period, 1950s. I love the single night thing. So it's just a well-crafted film,
Right.
super underrated. It obviously didn't get released in the box office. It went directly to Peacock, I believe. But it's a super good film. I highly recommend this. Out of all the films we're going to review today, besides Top Gun, this is the film I would say, if you don't see another one of these films, watch this one. This is the best film. And I think it's just an excellent film. My mom also watched it with me. She loved it. For any senior citizens out there. So demographic loves that. Next film is Senior Year, starring Rebel Wilson. And Pete, I'm gonna let you talk about this one first because I told Pete to watch this, and I got chewed out for it.
Well, it just, Rebel was, she's funny, and if you're in the mood for a silly movie that can be quite raunchy at times, then go ahead. It's an hour and a half that you'll never get back in your life, so just beware before going into this that you're going to be done with this movie and say, what did I just watch and why did I just spend all of my time on here? See, the problem is that it just didn't make any sense to me at all how she came from Australia to this new school. She's not fitting in with anybody. She's the outcast, but then she decides to make herself popular. She becomes popular very quickly. She becomes the head cheerleader. And then right before prom, she gets into an accident, a cheerleading accident where they throw her up and she lands on her head or something. And then she goes into a coma for 20 years. And when she wakes up, she's Rebel Wilson, and she thinks that she's still in high school, or at least wants to go back to high school again. And then she wants to go to prom, and she wants to become the prom queen because she never got a chance to do it 20 years prior. And she had best friends that have grown up, obviously, and have made something of themselves. And, she had no, that was her big thing. Her big thing was, I want to be prom queen and I'm going to do everything it takes to do it, even screw over my friends. And I just didn't like her as a character. I like Rebel Wilson. I didn't like her character. It turned me off. And even at the end, when she learns something, it was like that. And it happened with 3 seconds left in the movie. All of a sudden, she's like, oh, yeah, I should care about what my friends say. I should care about my friends. And then the movie ends. It was a waste of time. Terrible.
All right, look, that everything you said is fair.
I'm obviously,
I'm not going to go to bat for this film in terms of I'm not going to stake my life and career over this film. Here's what I would tell you whether or not you should watch this film. One, it's on Netflix. So this is a free film. You're already paying for Netflix. So if you're looking for a Wednesday night film to watch it. If you're looking for something where you don't want to necessarily think or have to pay attention to a lot, that's what this film is. Like Pete said, it's a raunchier kind of comedy. Again, Rebel Wilson, she's a certain character type. If you are into those things, I think it's worth it. I don't think this film is for everybody. There is definitely flaws with this film. It's not going to win any awards, but I did enjoy it. I personally enjoyed it. I did not, like my brother, regret watching it.
I do.
But there is holes, obviously, in the story, and usually comedies they are. That's the part where usually they're asking you to suspend belief a little bit and just enjoy the film. But yeah,
the film wasn't good. I mean,
look, it's obviously not even a real premise. Nobody has been in a coma for 20 years and tries to go to their prom. That's part of the humor, Pete. Obviously, you don't have any. And to my audience, I apologize because my brother does not have any sense of humor. But
I love comedies. They're my favorite type of movie, and I'm all about not thinking when I'm watching a comedy because that's the point. But there was no value to this movie at all.
I can't argue there. You're not going to learn anything if that's what you.
The premise needs to be funny in order for the movie to be funny, and that's not a funny premise. It's stupid.
Fair. All right, let's move on. So the next one is Firestarter.
You spent more time on that review than I spent watching that movie.
Exactly. So our next film is Firestarter, and that stars Zac Efron. That's on Peacock. It also got released in theaters. I have not finished that film, full disclosure. So Pete, you're going to give this review.
Yeah, I would say you're okay. You don't need to finish. You can find another movie to watch. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the original. I don't know. It was just one of those Stephen King stories that didn't really resonate with me ever. Almost like Pet Sematary. Like I didn't care about that one either.
Did you watch the newer Pet Sematary or no?
No, I didn't. No, because I mean, I was not forced to watch the remake of Firestarter, but you know, it was a new movie that we wanted to talk about, and yeah, it again, it's just there was nothing. It was predictable. It was like I didn't really care about them as a family. I mean, the whole background of the family was like in the opening titles, and like if you missed that, then you have no idea who these what their history is, and I just didn't really like it at all. I mean, Zac Efron was fine. I didn't think that his character, and this isn't his fault, I didn't think that his character needed to jump off the screen. I don't think that's why it was written, but I don't know. It was just another one of those movies that when we were finished, I was just upset about the lost time.
Fair enough. I will still finish watching it. I was enjoying it so far. I'm definitely curious where it's going to go, but yeah, I don't think I saw the original. I know obviously Drew Barrymore was in it, but I don't think I was too young when it came out. But
Little Girl's good, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, it's not Stephen King's highest rated book, so
right.
I understand your point. I did enjoy the new Pet Sematary, but again, I know that film's not for everybody, because these are the Stephen King, the terrifying Stephen King that just some people just don't resonate with. So yeah, I think you definitely need to like the horror genre if you're going to watch this.
But there was nothing horrific about it. I mean, there was no jump out of your seat moments. There was nothing that kind of scares you. It wasn't. There's no horror to it at all. And I think that was why Stephen King may have written a book like this, because it wasn't that sort of horror genre that he's normally associated with.
Yeah, for sure.
There's nothing mind-boggling about it. There was nothing. You know, Stephen King has something. He makes you question things and makes you think when you're reading one of his books or watching a film adaptation of one of his books, where you know there's always something going on, and you've really got to pay attention. It's usually a larger world around the story, like it's a huge huge world.
So real quick, Pete, this isn't on our script, but which do you like better, Stand By Me, written by Stephen King, or It, also written by Stephen King?
Stand By Me.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree. I think It is fantastic, and it's probably my favorite horror film, and I'm not a horror film guy, but Stand By Me, I think, is one of the most perfect stories. And then the film, I think, did such a great job of elevating that story, and it's the only movie adaptation that Stephen King actually like fully endorsed. And that's just so rare. But again, Rob Reiner did such an amazing job with that film. But yeah, I was just seeing if you were going to take the hot take like me. But yeah, I think Stand By Me, I think, is on the pantheon of the greatest films of all time.
In our last podcast, we were talking about the best soundtrack of the 80s, and I always felt Stand By Me, I think that came out in the 80s, no?
Yeah, 80.
Stand By Me was one of my favorite soundtracks, even though it was old music.
I have it. I have it on my list.
Listen to
that. That got me into classic music.
Exactly, me too.
Like 50s music. And we used to sing that. We used to play that soundtrack all the time. Like lollipop, lollipop. I mean, we knew all the songs. Yeah.
The X, son.
That's right. Okay, so this will take us to another list, Pete. So with Firestarter, that's a remake. And I want to know from you, Pete, what are the best remakes of all time?
Yes, and I've got a great list here, and I might win this category again. I might go 2-0 here. Now, the problem with this category is, in doing my research about a remake, is that a lot of movies I I wasn't aware were actual remakes, but because nobody does.
I had to look up what like I couldn't even like fathom.
Certain movies on my list may not appear as remakes to the layman, but if you
we're here to educate, Pete. We're here to educate.
That was the point I was trying to get to. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
So number 5 on my list was Casino Royale, Casino Royale.
Royale with cheese,
like a Royale with cheese in a casino. That's number 5 for me. Number 4.
That's James Bond, right?
James Bond.
Yeah, I think you already lost that number 5, but go ahead.
Number 4 is 3:10 to Yuma.
Nice, good pick.
Is that it would have been?
I forgot about that one. I saw it on a list. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's literally one of my favorite westerns, and it's so good.
The original was done in the late 50s,
right?
And I thought that that it was so good. It was so good from start to finish. What's the name of the actor that played the
Ben Foster?
Ben Foster, thank you.
Yeah, he's excellent in that film.
So good. I hated him. If I ever met him in person, I would hate him immediately because of how he portrayed himself in that role. He did such a good job.
Excellent.
Number 3 on my list is The Ring.
Oh wow.
And not a horror. I love horror films, but I thought The Ring was incredible.
The Ring is good. I'm not a horror guy, but I did. That was one of the few horror films I like.
Number 2 for me, which I was unaware was an actual remake, but I guess it is, was Scarface.
Right. Well, that one's a very loose remake.
It's a loose
remake, but it did qualify.
32.
I actually cut it off. I think I cut it off my list. It was so I actually had that in my top 5.
Yeah.
And then I actually like the original more.
I felt like it was cheating when I put it on my list.
It's not. It's 100% on it. It was on my list, and then 3:10 to Yuma knocked it off. So I was like, what would I rather watch today? Scarface or 3:10 to Yuma? And I'm like, 3:10 to Yuma. So don't. But Scarface, for a lot of people love Scarface. But a hot take, I love the original because the original is actually based off of, Al Scarface Capone.
Right.
And that's what's his face? See? What's his name?
I don't know.
Yeah, but I watched that in film school, and that's my favorite gangster era film. It's so good, the original. There is some weird because it's his sister, but they have the same weird thing in the other Scarface, but it's the only thing that throws off the film. It's like
right.
It's like Luke and Leia kissing. It's just like who's in charge of this film here? What's going on? But yeah, Scarface is great. Go ahead, keep going.
Number 1 for me is a movie that I watched probably.
Wait, you're on number 1 already? I thought you were on number 3.
No. Casino Royale, 3:10 to Yuma, The Ring, Scarface.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Number 1 for me is Ocean's 11. I think I could watch that movie all the time. The pace of it is incredible. The cast is incredible, funny. Even Andy Garcia as the villain is funny in the movie, even though he's not really trying to be. I mean, it's just a great overall film. It's brilliantly written and executed. I can watch that every day. I love it.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a great selection. I forgot about Ocean's 11 initially. Like I said, I saw when I read this list, I was like, oh crap, I wasn't even thinking about Ocean's 11, and I did include it. So my top 5 best remakes of all time. 3:10 to Yuma, I put that number 5. Like I said, it's one of my favorite westerns of all time. Probably number 3 or 4 westerns of all time. Maybe 5 actually. My number 4, and this actually surprised me, but it's A Star Is Born. And I absolutely love this film. This film, I just connect with it so much. I loved obviously Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga in it.
Jesus.
I love the music in it. And then for me, just the moment when she gets on stage, it was just such a powerful moment because I just really connected with that. I know it's a hot take. Not everybody loved A Star Is Born.
100%. That was one of the worst.
The Academy agrees with me, Pete. So
no, because the Academy doesn't know what they're talking about. That was one of the worst movies ever. And the fact that you can relate to that is shocking because spoiler alert, if you haven't seen, turn this off for a second, but you don't know any, unless I don't know something about your life. Do you know a bunch of raging alcoholics who end up killing themselves at the end?
I don't mean that part, Pete.
God,
I meant the part about someone going after their passion and they're not, that's what I was referring to. I meant Lady Gaga, by the way, not Bradley Cooper.
It was such
story's about Lady Gaga. The story's not about.
It had such a potential for being an incredibly uplifting film, which is what it started as, and you really did feel good. And then to end it like that is just, it was a big mistake.
Well, it's based off the original. So if you never saw the original, like that's what made the original so like, because the original came out in the 1930s. There was never a film like that. And it was about a guy, a successful guy that meets a girl, and then he derails his career goes down when her career goes up. I mean, that's what the story's about. So anyways, Pete, I don't care what your opinion is. I don't care about your opinion. I'm right. Okay. Star is Born's great. The Academy agrees with me. Overruled.
Please comment below if you liked A Star is Born or if you did not like The Star is Born. I bet you more people hated it than loved it.
Yeah, comment below who's right, Paul or Pete here. Number 3, you mentioned it. This is your number 1 film, but it's Ocean's 11.
Thank you.
Such an amazing film.
Right.
And this could be higher. This could be higher, but Ocean's 11's 3 for me, only because the other 2 are so great. And my number 2 is True Grit, which I loved with the Coen brothers. I love the original, and I also loved the remake, and that's so rare for me to like both. And one, obviously you're dealing with John Wayne.
I was gonna put that one too. That's a good
and
one.
The Coen brothers did such a great job of directing this film, and the music in it, the cinematography is fantastic. And then Jeff Bridges, right? No. It's Jeff Bridges. Jeff Bridges is so great in this. It's so this was the first film, I want to say, where both actors got nominated for their roles. John Wayne and then him. And again, to me, that's such a huge undertaking. And typically you lose that battle. And Jeff Bridges somehow was able to win that battle in terms of like being able to uphold the standard that John Wayne have. Just one of my great, again, that's probably my 3rd favorite Western.
2 Westerns in your list. Nice.
Yeah. Well, and number 1 is also a Western. And this is probably one of the original remakes. And it's Magnificent Seven. So there's basically 3 films here, which is why I put it number 1, that all I enjoyed. So there's the newer version that came out. It's probably the least best out of all of them, but Denzel Washington's in it. Ethan Hawke. I think it's a very good film. Antoine Fuqua directed it. It's a good film, but the original is a classic masterpiece. I mean, this is when you think about Westerns, Magnificent Seven is one. And that is a remake of one of the greatest films of all time, Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai. And that movie just had no one had seen a kind of a film like that.
Right.
And it was a Japanese cinema, and Americans were like, this is a great concept. Let's use this concept and make it, into a Western. And it did successful. So because of the 3 films, that's why that I chose it number 1 over all of them. Again, it's just, they're all great in their own outright. And yeah, so that's my list. And so Pete, because of the depth of my list, I'm going to win that round. Only because I showed both. So I do need to mention a couple films, just honorable mention, because I hated cut them off my list. But The Man Who Knew Too Much from Alfred Hitchcock, he actually remade his own film. So he originally made that film with a lower budget, and then got more money, and then remade it, and it became a bigger hit. That one's obviously great. I hated cutting that one off my list. You already mentioned Scarface. I cut that. Cape Fear was one. I really love that film. Robert De Niro, and that was like that movie gives me terrors. And I
liked him more than I liked the film. I remember seeing it in the theater a long time ago. But yeah, he was really good. I mean, when is he not good? But yeah, I
was like 12 when that movie came out. So I mean, that movie did a number on me.
I was less impressed with the movie, but I loved his performance, especially the laughing sequence was scary. It was creepy. It left something horrible inside of me.
Yeah,
he did great.
for sure.
On my honorable mention was I was going to put Bram Stoker's Dracula on there because I thought that was a good movie, but not good enough to be in my top 5.
I would agree with that.
But it's not bad. It's a good watch if
for sure
you're bored.
For sure.
I would watch that again before I watched Senior Year again.
Fair enough. All right, last 2 films that came out, and we'll go over these quickly. Memory, starring Liam Neeson. So this did not do well in the theaters. And what I wanted to see is, was this a bad film, or did this film just kind of get swept under the rug by other releases, or did people have Liam Neeson fatigue? You know,
right. What was your determination?
I think it's a little bit of both. So I enjoyed the film. I enjoyed watching the film, but I don't think the film was perfect. The story was it's a weird topic. So it's not like, this isn't a film you're going to watch 30 times, but sure. It wasn't bad. I didn't regret watching it. I think I wanted more out of it, is probably the best way to say it. So you're on the journey and you kind of like the premise. You're like, okay, I'm in, and you watch it, and I don't think the ending was as satisfactory as the journey, if that makes sense. So
are we getting, like you said, are we getting Liam Neeson fatigue in these style of movies? Is he now typecasted into this kind of a...
Well, yes. I mean, he's definitely already been typecast, but the film that really got me onto the Liam Neeson bandwagon is Cold Pursuit. Mm-hmm. This is actually also a remake. Wow. I actually might have made my list. This was one of this. I watched this with my buddy Mike, and we went in zero expectation. We're like, let's just go see it. We had some time, and the movie's funny. The movie's like, it was actually way more funny than I thought. And it was just a great premise and super, super entertaining. If you haven't seen it, I highly, highly recommend it.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
One of the sneaky good films of that year, but it's got a, you know, like how Quentin Tarantino kind of has a style. This film has a real style to it, and it found ways to make kind of monotonous things comedic and also dark things comedic. And so again, just a super, super sneaky good film. And yeah, this new film of Memory is not on that level, but I don't think there's fatigue yet with him. What I enjoyed about this film is, you know, obviously he's getting older, and part of his flaws is that he loses his memory, so he's not as sharp. So I think it kind of played into that as well. So I would say if it comes out on streaming, check it out. I don't think you'll hate it on streaming, but don't necessarily go out of your way. And then the last film, Pete, I don't really have a great read on this film. It's called Operation Mincemeat.
Yeah, I watched it.
Which is a real life situation. I wanted to love this film. I love if you read me the synopsis of this film,
yeah,
excellent.
Yeah.
My mom loved this film. Yeah. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I don't know if I was just bored or what.
I was totally bored.
Yeah, I just felt like I felt like this is the difference between a great, like when a filmmaker really puts his imprints on a story, yeah, and not. And I just felt it took too long to really get into it. And even when they get into it, it just wasn't cleverly done. So it's very kind of expositional.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just didn't. Like I said, I really wanted to love this film. I may watch it again. I don't know.
I think the problem with this film is that they tried to do too much in a short amount of time. They tried to add too many details that were just absolutely unnecessary. Like,
yeah,
even the B story with the girl, and do I like her? Do I not like her? But my wife is in the United States.
Yeah,
I didn't even care when they had to say their goodbyes at the end. Like, it just didn't.
Yeah.
You weren't even invested in that sort of relationship. You weren't invested in the plan. I don't know. I was bored. It was.
No, I'm with you. And we already mentioned another film, like Ocean's 11, right? That's a very meticulous film in terms of like planning and all that stuff. but they do it so cleverly and entertaining. The music, like, it combines all the elements of film. And I just, you look at Ocean's 11, and then two different films. The other comp I would use is Imitation Game, which is very, I think, very similar in tone and in time period, the whole nine.
Right.
But I love Imitation Game. In Imitation Game, the music's so excellent that even the boring parts, like, you're just swept away with the music. And that's where I think this film lacked a lot. Is just in the cleverness of how to make this film. And I think it was a good director too. So it wasn't like it was a nobody, but I just didn't think it hit. But that's on Netflix if you haven't seen that, right? Netflix. So
yeah, Netflix. So in review, go see The Outfit and then go see Memory, but then don't see anything else.
Yeah, and Memory is not even, like, you'd have to go to the theaters now. So I would just wait for it to come out on streaming. But out of all these films, The Outfit is really the only one I highly recommend. Senior Year, it's on Netflix. So, like, if you have a free night, watch it.
Don't do it.
But, it's a good date movie, I think. I thought it was a good date movie type thing. Go see with your favorite person. Yeah. All right, Pete. Our final part of the podcast here, Pete. Top Gun Maverick. A long awaited. This is the longest time between two films of all time. From the first to the second. This is the longest someone's ever waited. And I think that actually played in its favor. Obviously, well, first, before we even get anything, Pete, I have a little special trip that I took because I didn't want to just review this film from my laptop here, Pete. I want to review this from San Diego, Fighter Town, USA, on top of the Midway. Because, Pete, you can't review a film like this in any regular location. You got to do it on top of an aircraft carrier. So for my review of this, let's go to the Midway.
Let's go to, can you roll a clip, please?
Roll it. Well, Pete, we're live from Midway, San Diego, Fighter Town, USA. Saw Top Gun Maverick, and I had to come to the place where it all happens because that's what this movie deserves. It deserves my best. So I'm going to give you my best. So here are my thoughts on the film. First and foremost, I loved it. I saw the early Tuesday access on it. That's how much I loved it. Thank you, AMC. Hooked it up. And there's a lot of things I loved about this film. Again, this is a popcorn film at the end of the day. This is an action film. And let's keep that 100% in front of us. With that being said, though, I think this had a better story than the original. The original story, as we all know, can be a little flawed. It's a very entertaining film. It's good, but it has some huge story flaws. I really like what they did on the story here. Some of the decisions that they made just worked well. And I thought the fighting sequences were much improved, and that's hard to do. Editing was fantastic. Joseph Kosinski, who took over for Tony Scott, did a fantastic job. And I was a little worried in the beginning because I thought maybe the film was leaning a little bit too much on nostalgia, but then the actual story took over and we saw our characters have a little bit more arc than the original. And I think that's where this movie succeeds over the first one. I'm not here to tell you that this is better than the first one. It might make more money, but it's very hard to say it's going to be better than the first one just because the first one really was so revolutionary in how they shot it. Obviously, they had a lot of help from the U.S. Department of Navy, but this one excelled in so many different ways that overall, I think it's a better film. It's just a better crafted film. And I'll tell you what makes this film different than a lot of other sequels too, and a lot of even newer films today, is how much practicals that they still used. And you're seeing that with, some of the newer Star Wars, and this is what filmmakers need to continue to remember, that using CGI, relying too much on CGI, hurts the film overall. And audiences, I think, are smarter and smarter, and they do stuff that's just not realistic. A lot of this was very believable because it was shot with practicals. And that is something that just made the film really stand out and made all of the sequences super exciting. So I'm going to check it out again. I'll probably watch it like 5 times, but I super enjoyed this film. So Pete, back to you.
Wow.
Okay. So that was
Beautiful
my
review.
Yeah, that was my initial review. I shot that the day after I watched it. So I watched it again yesterday for the second time. And to me, you always learn a lot about a film in the second viewing. And I think there are going to be parts where some people aren't going to necessarily like. I mean, we talked about it in our other podcast. Like Pete didn't like the original volleyball scene. I love that scene. Most people that I know actually like that scene. So I think Pete Bush had a hotter take on that.
There's seeing the film as we speak.
So I saw Top Gun on Friday, IMAX. Very excited to see it. Been planning on it for years, literally. And my opinion in general, look, that movie was something sacred, and Americana and culture. And, you'd read that Tom Cruise didn't want to do it until he had the script right. And have to say, similar to the first one, if you saw the previous review, a lot I liked. I thought a lot of it was significantly better than the original. Certainly better script, better acting, better arc, kind of draw you in on that. Casting was impeccable. Loved Hangman as a character. He was probably my favorite addition. And overall, just fantastic film. Very entertaining. Now, the things I didn't like, soundtrack, to be honest, pretty weak. Feel like they took a lot of easy way out, did a lot of like classic rock hits, which, I don't know, just seemed kind of cheesy. Like you could put any of that stuff to jets flying around. It looks awesome. So much about the original soundtrack was all original hits. My favorite song was the One Republic song during the football scene. I don't know if that was original, but loved it. And to me, the Lady Gaga song, tremendous song, but, they didn't really put it out till the end of the movie, in the whole airplane sequence. I felt like they could have probably had that whole sequence earlier in the film before they went on the final mission. It just kind of felt out of place and like a bolt-on on the end. A couple cheesy parts. Didn't really like how they transitioned to the F-14, but once they got in there, it was worth it. Very fun movie. Well worth watching, and enjoyed the heck out of it.
And so they do a similar scene here where they're playing. I don't even know the rules of this game. I'm actually kind of curious on it, but it actually looks kind of fun, especially if you can find some hot girls to play with. But it's called, you play football with both offense and defense. So there's two balls and you're playing at the same time. So you got to play offense and defense at the same time on a principal level. So when that scene comes up, and this is where I like this film. So overall, the themes of this film, I really liked. And I did not say this in my review, but I love the themes of this film more than the first one, because obviously the first film is essentially kind of a ghost in this film. Like most, good in good writing films, a character has a ghost that they need to overcome. And obviously the biggest ghost in this film is Goose passing away. And then, that's what Maverick has to overcome, because he's now dealing with his son that's a pilot. And then he has his own trouble with his career. I mean, they make a couple good jokes. I thought, this film is funnier than the first one. Would you agree with that on a simple premise, Pete, or no?
It certainly had a couple of funny moments in it. I'm not as high on this as you are.
Okay.
So yeah, and I'm only giving you my review from the cockpit of a jet. So it's not as cool as being on an actual aircraft carrier, but at the same time, I don't know. I don't know if it was just the anticipation of 35 whatever years it's been. When I found out that they were going to be making this film, and then seeing the trailers, and then us talking about it with our pals, and I think it was built up to the point that at the end of the movie, I left really just disappointed overall. Like I just felt like it was almost a carbon copy of the original film. I thought that
I didn't think that at all,
man.
And let me tell you why.
Okay, please.
Like I said, this one I think actually had a better storyline. One of my biggest issues with the first one was about the school, was about Top Gun, and it was about them training. And theoretically, like in the script, their need was to graduate from Top Gun, right? Like that was actually the characters wanted out of life. This one, he's going the Top Gun school is a vessel, but it wasn't about the Top Gun school. And this one actually had a live mission, and the mission made sense. And the mission had high stakes. It had things that you logistically needed to overcome, and it wasn't perfect on paper, but the mission had to be done. And I like that concept of it, because you knew right away that the stakes were high, and the probability of the mission, kind of like Saving Private Ryan, where it's like, dude, this is the mission. This is the worst mission ever, but this is why you guys are going. Like, we need the best.
But I had a problem with that from the beginning, because if it's not about the Top Gun school, why bring Maverick back to the Top Gun school to train a bunch of younger fighter pilots?
I can answer that, actually.
Aren't a part of Top Gun. They were all brought in. At least
right, that's what made more sense, though, because these are all graduates of Top Gun. These are the best of the best.
But then you could go anywhere and train these kids. Why did you have to come back to this one location? Top Gun had nothing to do with this film. It had nothing to do with Top Gun.
I just don't think you know the logistics of the Navy. San Diego is the Navy.
Yes, but it's called Top Gun. Top Gun is about the school, and these weren't like recruits.
They were all Top Gun graduates.
I didn't catch that, if that was accurate.
Oh, that's 100% accurate. These were all Top Gun graduates. They're the best of the best.
Bruce's son was a graduate?
A graduate, yeah.
And then he got his papers pulled.
So he's 4 years behind, yeah, but he ended up still getting 4 years later. But that's why he hated Maverick, because and again, I thought the explanation was excellent. So
it was a fun ride. I mean, it was enjoyable, and I agree that the action sequences and the jets were incredible. I just, bringing back Penny Benjamin, was funny.
I think that was excellent. Yeah.
But she just plays no significance in the movie at all. She doesn't contribute anything to it. The daughter,
no, I disagree. I disagree. Let me tell you what her significance was. So this is maybe, again, this is where I probably related more to the character than you do. As a single guy, I am now 42 years old, but you're in a different world, right? Don't have kids. Like, I related to Maverick because I was like him. I'm like him in that sense, where it's like you've already done a big part of your career and all that, but then you're also looking to the next phase, and you're looking to settle down. You're looking to do all that stuff, and that's what, part of his growth there, he was looking for in Penny Benjamin, because it's like they always had good times, but he wasn't ready at that time because the Navy was always first for him. And now he's going into this next phase of his life, because he's 60 years old in the film, and he's 6 years in real life. This is the end of this is his last ride. And so now he's also looking for that partner and that person to go into the next phase of life. So that to me, that's a real thing. And I like that part of it, because
what does that say about her? What does that say about her, though? She gets screwed over by him in the past. He disappears, never to be around, and then all of a sudden he shows up 30 years later because he's ready to settle down, and she's like, okay, no problem.
Well, she says that, though. She says, you're trouble every time. Like, you're trouble. But sometimes, like I said, sometimes timing isn't right. I mean, I don't know how to explain that other than that, but look, I'm not saying Maverick is necessarily right in this situation. But at the same time,
I was thinking about her character in the film. It didn't contribute anything. It didn't do anything. It didn't advance anything. It didn't make anybody go and do something extraordinary afterward.
It's the B story, though.
But there's got to be something that the B story does. I think she was a wasted opportunity. I think that she could have done a lot more. I just feel like, after this long, to have, and maybe I got to see it again. But as far as I'm concerned, if I have to go see a movie a second time in order to get a really good gauge on it, then it really wasn't impressive to begin with.
I do think there was one scene that I watched the second time, and it probably was the scene that did least for me, and it's with her and Maverick, and they go sailing. I did think that was like the least, like the scene that definitely had like the least amount of value to it.
Yeah, but, because they build it up like she has to do something, and she has to go somewhere on this boat in order to do. And I forget what they were supposed to do, but then they get on the boat and then they don't do anything. They just sail around. I'm like, well, were you supposed to do something? She's got to go.
Well, if I had to guess, I don't have any proof or anything. I'm assuming part of that whole scene, like the purpose of that scene, was A, obviously show more connection between the two, and then B, it's also trying to show that, you know, obviously Maverick is, when it comes to flying, he's the best, but then this is him out of his element, and he's the opposite. He's doesn't know what he's doing, and then it's showing kind of her strength a little bit. Because,
sorry,
no, I mean, again, I'm not saying this is I think it's the least scene in this entire film. So I'm not defending the scene any stretch of the imagination. I'm just trying to put my head into as a director and or a writer, why I put that scene in there. I think you could cut it, but also it wasn't so detrimental where, like, I think you can leave it in and it doesn't really change the film. It's not that long. So
I also thought that I was really disappointed that in the head credits it said Ed Harris, and he was in like the first 2 seconds of the movie. We never saw him ever again. He should have at least made a reappearance at the end. I was looking for that, and it didn't happen. I was bummed. I also didn't think that John Hamm was right for this role. I don't think I believed him as the head of Top Gun or whatever. I didn't really enjoy his character one bit.
I would agree with that. I am with you. I love John Hamm, and I didn't like him at all. And I know maybe that's part of the role, but I think there's ways. We all love James Tolkien.
Yeah.
And he had such panache to the role.
Yeah, it was very flat.
Yeah. And even honestly, I thought, I hate to say this because I love these guys. Ed Harris, I wanted more out of him, but that's just because Ed Harris is so great.
Yeah.
And I just thought that would definitely be my two critiques is I definitely wanted more substance from these guys. Just maybe a different take. I just thought they kind of played it straightforward, and maybe I wanted more risks.
Yeah.
But again, we don't know maybe they didn't want them. Maybe they want them like that. But James Tolkien, I think, even Viper, had this calm but very sophisticated, approach to it.
But he was unique. He was a unique performance in that movie. I didn't like the fact that, the kids that he had to train, there was the carbon copy Iceman. There was the token black guy. They added a couple of girls because of diversity, maybe, even though they were good, but not really, because you never really got to know them. I didn't like that they kept using "Talk to Me" throughout the entire movie. Everyone's saying "Talk to me, Goose." Everyone's saying "Talk to me, somebody." I don't know. There was just, I felt like I was just rewatching an updated version, but nobody did much with the script. They might have like added a new mission at the end. It was different than the original, but it was just laid out. It was the same movie. I watched the same movie. Even it was elevated for sure. It was elevated in terms of like, obviously the budget and how much they were able to do with the fighter pilots and all that stuff. But I don't know, and then seeing Val Kilmer, I think it was really good. That it was kind of cool when it was just text messages, but then he came on the screen and it was just like, man, it was a tough watch. And I wasn't emotional about it. And I don't know if it was just because of me seeing that documentary.
I think that's 100%. Let me just tell you this. I think you're in your own fucking head, because everything you're saying, honestly, I think you're just wrong. And because look, Dale actually, I think, probably agrees with you, but everyone else is like, this film was awesome. I watched it with like 6 people. So with all due respect, Pete, you're fucking wrong, bro.
Okay.
And let me tell you why. I'm going to tell you why this film is great.
Why? Because Maverick having a conversation with Val Kilmer, who just types on a keyboard, is good.
No, but see, you know the layers. You know the layers that what Val Kilmer went through, and you know that he's the only person they brought back. I like that. They didn't force a bunch of other characters into this film. I like that there's only one person, and it's Ice.
No, they just copied them and made them new characters, and they were the same.
Let me tell you why these characters are different. Jennifer Connelly and Maverick do have a better chemistry than Kelly McGinnis. Like, that's not it. No one can argue that, right? Like, they even said it. They had no chemistry. I do think Tom Cruise's character has more layers to it. But what I liked about this film the most is the theme of this film. A lot of films or things today, it's all about following the rules or doing this or doing that. This film, like, from the get-go, it's, hey guys, you're all good. We already know you're good. But what we're going to find out about you is stuff you can't teach, and you can't, we're going to push you to a limit more than what you think you're capable of. And I don't think that kind of messaging is very popular today. But that's what I loved about this film, was this film is about finding the best in you, taking yourself to another level you don't even think you're capable of. But it's also about believing in yourself. It's also about believing in your teammates. If more people follow this formula, more people would get to a level like they're just not used to. And I just absolutely love that messaging throughout the entire film, because that's why Maverick was necessary in this film. That's why Iceman brought him, is because he says it, the Navy needs you, because we don't have people like that. Because John Hamm doesn't have, like, he's not going to push the limits. But this mission requires us to think outside the box. This mission requires us to push ourselves beyond our limits that we think we're capable of. Your machine, you're going to push your machine more than what it's supposed to be capable of. And I absolutely love that messaging, because that's the kind of messaging we need. Because we always deal with our own mental limiting beliefs. Everybody deals with that. But can you dig deep and push beyond that to do stuff that you don't even think you're capable of? And Maverick, he even doubted himself at one point. But that's where I think this film really excels, and why I think, again, the first film was about more structure in terms of, hey, we have rules. Maverick doesn't play by the rules. He's got to learn to play by the rules. This film is opposite of that. This film is about, if you follow the rules, you're going to die, because all the odds are against your favor, and you got to do something. You've got to push everything beyond that capability. That's the only way you're going to survive. And I agree. I didn't like the quote unquote Iceman character, Glenn Powell. But the part I did like about him, and what separated him from Miles Teller's character, was he actually understood that. He's actually the only guy in that team that actually understood that you have to go, you can't play by the rules and think you're going to win. Like, he actually is the one person that actually believed that Maverick was the guy. He's like, dude, if you don't fly like Maverick, you're not going to win. And he's the only one that got that. And that was the one redeeming quality I liked about him, was that he thought differently.
He's the only one that actually went to go and save the day. You know,
the other ones had to go back because their planes were hurt. And remember, John Hamm was the one that said, don't go save them.
Yeah.
But
because he broke the rules.
And I thought it was super, spoiler, obviously. The other part that I liked about this film was how cleverly they were able to incorporate the Tomcat. So if you know anything about the military, the Tomcat got retired in 2006. There's no active Tomcats in the world. Besides, one country has Tomcats that we sold them to, and that's Iran. And we sold them in the 70s to them when they were our ally. So you'd have to assume this film takes place in Iran, because that's the only place where you can actually get those planes. But I thought they cleverly how they were able to get Rooster and Maverick together for the final scene. I thought that was excellent screenwriting, because it worked and it wasn't like a stretch. Like, it made sense in the story that was outlined.
Yeah, and again, you know, there was a lot of nice things about the movie, and I overall I enjoyed the movie. However, it's just I think my expectations were really, really high, and I don't think it ultimately delivered on what it was that I kind of expected from waiting for so long for this movie to come out. You know, I waited all my life, and this was the movie that I got. Good movie, go see it. It's nice. It's a good watch. I don't think it comes anywhere near the original.
Yeah. Well, I'm again hot take. I think in many ways it is. You'll never take away what the original film was, because the original film was revolutionary, like from the get-go. Like the and we talked about this in our podcast, but how that film was set up with the titles, the slow score of Harold Faltermeyer, you know, explaining what Top Gun is, and then, you know, smash cut to danger zone on top of the aircraft carrier, you know, punch left, right, you know, we hadn't really seen a film like that before. And again, danger zone is such an iconic song. You can't beat that, right? But where, again, I think when you take away the nostalgic aspect of the first one, this is a better crafted film. And I love the fact that they use practicals in it. You're not going to see, name another film that's even remotely like this since the original Top Gun. We've seen terrible jet plane, like stealth, and they don't come near. Again, when you just, again, at the end of the day, we're talking about a popcorn film, right?
Yeah.
When there is not another film like this when it comes to fasten your seatbelt, let's watch some jets, go into another country, like the mission, all that stuff, dude. There's one movie that's like this, and that was the original Top Gun. And I feel like, but their mission wasn't as good as this mission. This mission was way better.
So there's two kinds of sequels, and I'll give you two examples because callbacks are important in sequels.
Sure,
that's what makes them fun, and that's what, you know, makes them relatable when you're watching them. Like, oh my gosh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
Indiana Jones as sequels, if you watch like Temple of Doom or Last Crusade, they have certain beats and moments in those films that are a callback to like the original, where you're like, yes, I remember that, and that's great.
Sure.
Then there's like the Austin Powers 2, which is virtually taking every single joke that they did in the first one, and they put every single joke into that second film.
Right. Now, and they update it.
And I'm not saying that this is Austin Powers, but it ain't Last Crusade or that, you know what I mean?
Disagree. I think it is. I think
they took so many elements from the first movie, and it's basically like they said, okay, here's the first movie, and then they said, okay, well, we need a new mission, so let's take the mission out and we'll put in a new mission. We need a Val Kilmer character. Okay, there he is. We need a girl. There she is. You know, and we have
those are traditional film icons. I mean, you're putting blame on this movie, like they invented this quote unquote recipe, but you have to have characters that are different. And like Glenn Powell's character, he has to be opposite of Rooster, because that's what that's typically when you're writing these characters, they have, like, in order to separate them, they can't be the same.
Yes.
So if Rooster's weakness is
like Val Kilmer's Iceman,
he wasn't. No, he wasn't.
It's the same. He's that same cocky guy that gets in your face. The only thing that he didn't do was chomp. That was the only thing that he didn't do.
Well, he's definitely not as charismatic as Val Kilmer, I don't think. But again, I think the redeeming quality of Glenn Powell's character, really over all the other pilots, was the fact that he actually understood. He was the one guy that understood what it took to do this mission, and that's what separated.
I agree with that. But again,
but what I also like too was he gets cut out at the end. So when you think he's supposed to be picked, he's not. I think that was a good decision, because, you know, theoretically he was the top guy. Yeah, but he also wasn't a good teammate. That was his issue, and that's what he had to overcome at the end. But
either way, we'll agree to disagree on that one. Again, sure. Good movie. I enjoyed myself. I expected too much.
Well,
I was thoroughly disappointed.
And that leads us to this incredible segue. Way to bring this podcast down.
Hey,
we're now gonna talk about the best sequels of all time.
This is tough.
This one is tough, and this is a heavy hidden list too, by the way.
Yeah,
I mean, I forgot. Oh shoot.
Yeah, the honorable mentions are their own list.
Oh geez.
In this
I just
one.
realized when I cut off, it's gonna be my number 5, but
yeah.
Actually, shoot. No, I'm gonna move it to number 2. I totally forgot about it. I wasn't even I messed up.
See, because the sequel doesn't have to necessarily be the second. If there were,
no, it could be the third. Yeah, it could be the third.
It could be the fourth. It could be the fifth. Whatever it is. So, yeah. I mean, all right. I'll just do mine now.
Do yours. Go ahead.
Real fast. I'm not gonna. It's obvious that these ones are all good. It's just what order you put them in and who did you leave out, and So at number 5. By the way, I did not use MCU in any of these just because I feel like that would have just.
No, I'm with you. I didn't include any MCU.
That being said, it's not MCU, but my number 5 is Deadpool 2. I thought it was.
Oh my goodness, it's such a good one, and it's not on my list.
So good. Number 4 is Last Crusade.
Yeah,
and it's tough because it's one of my favorite movies, and it's number 4, and that.
I actually like watching Last Crusade more than I like watching Raiders Lost Ark. But Raiders Lost Ark is like that's number 1. But I'm with you. Last Crusade is excellent.
It sort of hurts the younger me to say that it's only number 4 on my list. But I mean, that's how top heavy this list is. It's like number 3, I put Empire Strikes Back.
Okay. For obvious reasons.
Number 2, I have Dark Knight.
Oh my goodness,
dude! Dark Knight is
dude. Oh, you just ruined my list. Okay,
dude. I already won this list. Number 1, indisputably the best sequel of all time is Godfather 2.
Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna update my list live.
I win.
I'm gonna update my list live. I totally forgot about the Dark Knight.
How did you forget about the Dark Knight?
Okay, so I'm gonna knock off. I had Bad Boys 2 up in there. That's gonna now go to honorable mention because it's just not on the same level as those other 2 films. So, no. Dude, I love Bad Boys. I love Bad Boys.
I know. You're not the only one.
So, all right. So number 5, I'm updating my list live right now. So number 5, I'm gonna put Beverly Hills Cop 2. I absolutely love that film. When you're talking about an action film,
many other.
But it's one of the best action films of all time, and it's Eddie Murphy, and he's hilarious in it. So,
there's some notes here.
Beverly Hills Cop 2 is number 5. Number 4, I'm going to put Indiana Jones and Last Crusade.
Okay.
For all the reasons you said, I actually, if I had to pick one Indiana Jones film to watch, that's my favorite. The addition of Sean Connery is one of the greatest. I mean, he's one of the greatest like new introduced characters in a sequel ever. I mean, and you I would maybe put him the best all time.
You couldn't have put anybody else in that role other than Sean Connery, and it would have had it work.
Yeah, he's so good in that film. That's what makes it to me better than the original Raiders Lost Ark.
Yeah.
Number 3, I'll put Empire Strikes Back. Hot take here. Everybody always puts Empire Strikes Back as like the second favorite or like their favorite Star Wars. It was never that much for me, only because like the arc of the film, it ends obviously not on a high point. I didn't really like Cloud City sequence. I love the Hoth sequence and then the asteroid sequence, but the film itself, like it's not my favorite.
Yeah.
Again, hot take. I always loved Return of the Jedi.
In terms of sequels, you could have said any Star Wars.
Yeah. And I'm kind of doing that with Star Wars. I loved Return of the Jedi myself, but I think that's also, that was the first film I think literally I saw. Like that's literally my first memory of life is going to see Return of the Jedi, going to buy a toy at KB Toys. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, I remember.
And we got to go pick out a Star Wars character. And I think I picked the fucking Red Guard. Like, remember the Red Guard? Yeah, I don't know why I picked that, but he was the coolest looking one. I'm assuming that's why I picked him. I was 5 years old, 4 years old, 3 years old. I was 3 years old when that came out. So that's going to be my number 3. My number 2, and this is 1A, 1B. I actually like this more as a film, but Dark Knight, I think is, to me, it's literally the greatest film of all time. Christopher Nolan is a genius. And, you know, we've talked about this before, but there has never been a more perfect villain, perfect antagonist, more than the Joker. And what he's able to do psychologically to push Batman, to push him to do things he doesn't like. It's just, when you're talking about, and there's a video, check it out, Lessons of a Screenplay, where they talk about the Dark Knight. Go check that out. But it literally he's literally the perfect villain of all time. And that's my number 2. I would actually vote at number 1 in terms of like wanting to watch it. But number 1 is Godfather 2 for all the reasons. I mean, that no sequel had ever been a success / even better. But what they did with Godfather 2 was so amazing.
In terms of modern movies, though, if there was a movie that could compete with Godfather 2, it's Dark Knight.
Dark Knight, 100%. And then The Dark Knight Rises too is also, I like The Dark Knight Rises as well. Obviously not as good as The Dark Knight, but I love a good Bane. I love a good Bane impression.
I don't, but I know I could never get past that voice, and it bothered me throughout the whole movie.
You really adopted the darkness.
Some honorable
mention in it.
I mean, so bad.
I love it.
Bruce.
That opening sequence with the plane. I think that's such a excellent opening sequence.
Yeah. For me, honorable mentions include Terminator 2. That's
oh my goodness. Yes, that was on my list too. I had to drop that one.
Nostalgia reasons. I just love that.
Young Guns 2. Young Guns 2.
Oh, I didn't put Young Guns 2.
I know. I actually, if I had to put like my favorites, Young Gun 2 actually should be up there.
That would be up there for sure.
That actually might take the place of Beverly Hills Cop, now that I say that out loud.
Yeah, honestly.
Like Young Gun 2 is probably my favorite film of all time. I watch that literally 4 or 5 times a year.
Yeah, that's a great movie. So T2,
T2 is
Kill Bill 2 for me, it was a great sequel. I thought both of the Bournes. I'm a Bourne fan. I love the Bourne Identity movies. I thought Toy Story has some great sequels. And
Shrek as well.
Any of the Harry Potter movies I think would have been good for me too. But and Lord of the Rings, but Lord of the Rings and like Harry Potter, like because those are based on like
books
previously written, you know, so that's why I left those ones off the list ultimately. But
you knew going into them that there's more installments. So I agree, it's kind of a different genre, but we'll have that'll be another list eventually, is like sequels based off of books or something like that. But
yeah,
those are good lists, Pete. All right,
I won that one.
You did not.
Oh, I gave you half your list.
That's true. All right, fair enough. You did win that one.
2-1.
All right, let's just go over this last one real quickly. But Jennifer Connelly was obviously in this role, and
hardly,
she's had a long career, a long and distinguished career. So we want to give her a little bit of due here. So I want to know, Pete, what are your best Jennifer Connelly roles?
Top 5 Jennifer Connelly roles. Number 5 for me is Blood Diamond.
Good call.
Number 4 is Career Opportunities.
Yes. And tell the audience why, Pete, and Career Opportunities.
Well, I mean, that was when she came back onto the big screen and she had suddenly become a woman, and it was very obvious that she had just become a woman, and it was very lovely to watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Number 3, Beautiful Mind. Number 2, Only the Brave, and number 1 was Labyrinth. Labyrinth was when I fell in love with her.
Labyrinth, good call. I didn't see that on the list. All right. I have a little bit of a different list.
She was the same age as me when I first saw that movie, and I was like, that's who my girlfriend's gonna be.
Yeah, no, that's a good list. That's a good list. So I had number 5, Career Opportunities, for all the reasons you just said. She and what I like about her career too is she went from like sex symbol to like really good actress. And my number 4 is The Rocketeer.
Yeah.
I love that film, and she was excellent in it. She's obviously the love interest in that film, and she's really good in that. Number 3 is Inventing the Abbotts. So kind of the same reason for Career Opportunities. She's like this kind of vixen in the film, and I think she crushes that role because she's she's the kind of like the sex symbol in that film, and you know, she plays it obviously excellent. And
inventing the
yeah.
habits.
Number two, Blood Diamond. I love that film. And number one was A Beautiful Mind. I mean,
Only the Brave didn't make your list.
I mean,
wow.
I love that film, and she's great in it. I just didn't make my top 5, unfortunately.
I think that's 3-1.
Because I think no, I won this one.
Oh, please.
Your number 1 was Labyrinth. I mean, she was good in Labyrinth, but not like.
Dude, she carried that film.
She carried A Beautiful Mind. I think she won the Oscar for A Beautiful Mind, didn't she? Or got nominated?
Yeah, but we both had Beautiful Mind on our lists.
Yeah, but mine was number 1 because that's probably her best role of all time.
Labyrinth introduced
and her character is excellent in that film because of, you know, obviously how that film plays out.
All right, 2-2. Whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna win that one. All right, so wrapping up upcoming films and premieres for you guys to check out. Crimes of the Future comes out June 3rd. That stars Kristen Stewart, Viggo Mortensen, and Lea Seydoux. That's written and directed by David Cronenberg, who also directed Eastern Promises, A History of Violence, and The Fly back in the day. So that one looks good. So that will obviously be on our list to watch, Pete, is Crimes of the Future.
Yeah, I'm really curious about that one. It looks really
I think that's going to be a hit or miss. It's either going to be really
bizarre.
Good or super bizarre, and we don't get it.
And Eastern Promises and A History of Violence, I mean, they were done in such a way that, you know, you're either going to really love them or you're going to be like, what just happened?
Yeah, that's what that's what David Cronenberg is kind of known for. Hustle comes out June 8th. That's on Netflix. That stars Adam Sandler. I've heard great things about that. I'm actually really looking forward to that one.
Looks real good.
Yeah, I have high hopes for that one. And then lastly, Jurassic World Dominion comes out June 10th. And so with the rest of our podcast lineup, we have Indiana Jones that's going to be coming out, our review on the original Raiders of the Lost Ark. Then we will be back next week to discuss Crimes of the Future. And then after that, we'll be reviewing Jurassic Park, the original, in honor of then Jurassic World coming out. And so that's what is on tap for us. Guys, please comment below films that you want us to review. Obviously, we're going to review all the new ones, but in terms of classic films, if there's films like you guys got to watch, you know, Back to the Future, boom, put it in the comments. You know, we're making our list now in terms of what we want to review, but Back to the Future is on that list. Beverly Hills Cop's on that list. Anchorman, Wedding Crashers. We're gonna be reviewing all these. Karate Kid. Yeah. So, but again, help us, guys. Comment below. Make sure you subscribe. Our new Aaaction podcast will be keep pushing out content for you guys, so you guys can come along this journey with us and watch old great films, and then also watch new ones and all that good stuff. So, with that being said, Pete, thanks again. And we'll see you. We'll see you soon, guys.
And we'll see you at the movies.
We will see you at the movies.
I think that's somebody else's tagline. I don't think we can use it.
No. Ours is action.
Action.
And with that being said, guys, cut. Because I guess that's how we should be ending it, right? Cut
it out.
No, that's Joey from Full House. All right, guys. Thanks for joining. Make sure you like and subscribe, share this video as well. And again, join us in this new journey, Aaaction Podcast on YouTube.